By nationality, I'm from Germany, but I have never lived there as a devotee. I left Germany in 1984. I traveled the whole world looking for a higher purpose of life. And then finally in Australia in the beginning of 85, that's where I met ISKCON. And after 1 week of meeting the devotees, I immediately moved into the ladies' ashram. So in the Western world, Prabhupada established ashrams for women because there the women don't get the training in their home like it is here in the families in India. So I spent 4 years in the women's ashram getting solid training. I had already second initiation and was trained to worship Radha Gokulananda on the altar and. So, and then I was married for 10 years. And that time we pioneered the first more organized temple in the former Soviet Union. This was a whole big adventure. First time we came there in 89, the KGB was following us. We had to have the programs in the forest so they couldn't, spy on us so easily. Yeah, it was a whole big adventure. So, and then in 99, my ex-husband decided to take a break from me and from Krishna consciousness. So and he left. I'm not sure what he's doing now. He's not practicing anymore. So that was 99. So since 99, I'm traveling and living out of a suitcase. I'm actually every week somewhere else in the world. So I spend 5 months per year preaching in India and Bangladesh, and 7 months per year all around the world, to US and Canada and Australia and New Zealand and South Africa and Mauritius and Kenya and all around Europe. So I'm, all around the place. And over 20 years, I've been preaching in Bangladesh. Actually, I remember you used to have a brahmachari here from Bangladesh. Is he still here? Yes, I know him from Bangladesh. Yes. Yeah, so for over 20 years, I've been very involved there. And I learned so many things there. Yeah, because when I'm there, there's no foreign devotees, even nobody from India. I'm only with the locals. Bangladesh is a very special place. It's East Bengal. It's where most of Mahaprabhu's associates come from. Yeah, they're not coming from West Bengal, but East Bengal. So many holy places. There's Madhavendra Puri's original Bhajan Kutia in Bangladesh. So, Madhavendra Puri, spiritual master of Ishwar Puri, who is the spiritual master of Mahaprabhu, his original Bhajan Kutia is there. I've been there. Very amazing place. Narottam Das Thakur's place. So many. Rupa and Sanatana Goswami's birthplace. And it's an amazing part of the world where our Vaishnav culture has been so preserved, much more than in India. Much more. India has become very westernized. I've been coming to India for 35 years every year. Probably longer. I'm longer in India than you boys. Yeah, so I've seen how India changed over the last 35 years. But Bangladesh is like a different planet, even compared to India. And because I learned so many things there, which really transformed my whole spiritual life. That's why I established an institute for spiritual culture. Because I realized devotees need some training how to actually live what Prabhupada has given us. Yeah. So, and I'm based in Mayapur. Mayapur is the only place where I stay longer than 1 week. And I give 6 courses there in January. And now I'm putting the courses in book form. So each book you see here is actually a 15-hour course. So because not everybody can come to Marpo and do all these courses, so now I'm publishing them as books. So very insightful, because Prabhupada's books, they are the law books for civilized humanity, right? For the next 10,000 years, he said. So and often the law books are a little complex and complicated. And very often we need some additional literature that makes the law books more practically accessible to us. And that's what I'm trying to do. So the books are completely based on what Prabhupada says. Every second page you have a quote, mainly from the Bhagavatam. It's all there in the Bhagavatam. But people just read over that and they don't realize how to put it into practice. But we can only transform our heart to cultivate bhakti if we live the teachings. Just hearing them is a good beginning, studying them is a good beginning, but then comes the real challenge to apply them, to live accordingly. And we are not there yet, even here in India. We are not there yet. It requires training. Yes. So that's what I'm trying to give. Yes. So towards the end of our seminar, I will mention a few words about each book, hoping that maybe some of you will have some interest to get them. So that today's topic, Meeting Death with Joy, is in the last book here towards me. That is the most recent book I published, and it's been very popular. I printed 2,000 copies in February this year, and I have to already reprint them. It's already gone, just in 8 months or something, yeah. So people are keen, because it's actually the first book in ISKCON which talks about Vanaprastha. Yeah, there's no other literature out yet. Yeah. And this topic of Vanaprastha, maybe let's see how far we get in our seminar. But I do want to mention a few little things at the end, which will be even interesting for you young boys too. Because if we know about the Vanaprastha, then we plan our life accordingly. Then we don't get married when we are 48 and start with babies then, because 50 is the timeline that Prabhupada gave us, 50, we should think of Anaprastha, but how often do I see this on my travels all around the world? Especially the men, they stay in saffron till the last breath, until they can't do it anymore. And then often they're 49 or 52, and then they get married, Oh my God, a failure, We have the saying, failing to plan means planning to fail. Yes. So, this Vanaprastha ashram is an important thing which should be part of general education in ISKCON. But nobody talks about it, and it's not established. People don't know anything about it. Yeah. Okay, so the way I like to work is that I first want to establish a few things, and I don't like to be interrupted all the time, because then, I lose my thought and so on. So I like to present a few things, and then I stop and see if there's any questions, and then we continue and stop again, and like that. And I basically have three main topics I would like to at least touch upon tonight. So we want to start by giving some little insights what death is all about. Because often we are so fearful of death, and fear is always a sign of ignorance. So once we actually confront ourselves more with this topic, we will realize it's not such a big thing. We've done it already so many times, right? So many times. We just forgot. So that's the part number one, a little bit of insights what death is all about. Then I want to have some part where we talk how to accompany another person in this final phase, let's say last 2 weeks. Very relevant also for you young boys and girls, because our grandparents die, our parents die, senior devotees die. We have to know what to do, yeah. And I had a few young devotees, young brahmacharis, who got the book and read it, and they wrote to me, "Oh, what a shame I didn't get this book earlier, then I would have known what to do when my mother left her body," you know. But often we just don't know, and all we know is scream the Maha mantra into somebody's ear, which I don't really recommend. It doesn't need to be screamed, or putting truth leaf on your tongue. Well, there's so many more things we have to know. Even a few considerations about our own departure. This may also be relevant to some of us here. Yes. So, and then hopefully part three, just a few little ideas and principles what this manifestation is all about. So let's see how far we get. Okay? Yes? And I hope you're going to stay with me here and not walk out after half an hour and say I'll come back in 1 more hour or something. Because, yeah, it's an interesting topic. And I've given this seminar in many places this summer, actually, in Europe. There's a lot of festivals, Vaishnava festivals happening, 5 days where big crowds of devotees come and they have seminars during the day, kirtan in the evening. And I've given 2, 3 sessions on this topic there. And they were well attended, and people always give me this feedback, finally something practical. People often say this to me, finally something relevant and practical. All we hear is high philosophy or Leela after Leela after Leela. But what about the practical application? That's usually what people say, not wanting to glorify myself. But that's usually the response I get. So in death, it is a topic which is relevant for every one of us, even young fellows, young girls. So many times death comes at a very young age. We don't know, We shouldn't think that, it's not relevant for me, I'm still young, let me enjoy life or something. But no, this can happen at any moment, and it often does. It often does. Yeah, so let us begin by remembering that actually death is the only thing in life which is 100% sure, right? 100% sure. Everything else, maybe it will happen, maybe it will not happen. We don't know. But death, 100% it will happen. And yet, we pretend that it will never happen to us. Right? Yes. We are so much in denial, sweeping it under the carpet, thinking this is not important for us. Yeah. So, and when death is knocking on our door, then, ooh, so unexpected. Well, what is this unexpected? Has to be expected at any time. So if we feel, or if we get, somebody in our family gets some death notice, oh, so unexpected. Hey, what is this? This just shows how much we keep ourselves in this illusion that it will never happen to us. Otherwise we wouldn't react like that. That we say, oh, so unexpectedly, right? Yeah. So, and there's also this episode where Yamaraj is asking Yudhisthira Maharaj, what is the most amazing thing in this world? And what did he answer? Exactly that. He said, even though every day we are surrounded by death, surrounded. Even when we go in nature, there's always some dead birds, some dead insects, some other animals, whatever. So we are surrounded by death. But still, those who stay behind, they think it will never happen to us, to them. And that is the most amazing thing. That's what Yudhisthira Maharaj answered. And we may make so many arrangements how to live nicely, right? Yes, we're all keen for that. But actually, we should make arrangements how to die nicely. And if we make arrangements how to die nicely, we are not only dying nicely, we are living nicely too. Because that's actually Krishna conscious life. Yes, that's what we are preparing for, actually. Krishna consciousness is not just having a jolly time, but no, it's actually a serious matter. We want to really use every minute of our life to cultivate bhakti so we can remember Krishna alone and get out of here. Serious thing, Yeah. Yeah, so, and interestingly, a devotee and a non-devotee, they they approach death with a very different attitude. For a non-devotee or a non-believer, it is the most horrifying, the most unwanted, and the most ghastly moment. Oh, yeah, so much fear is there. As I mentioned, fear is always a sign of ignorance, that we don't know what is happening there, and that's why we are so fearful. Yes. But a devotee, especially a devotee who is preparing seriously, not so fearful. Because for a devotee, it's the most glorious moment when we can get on the plane back home, back to Godhead. Right? Yes, yes. Krishna has been waiting for us for so many lifetimes. So why by hook or by crook wanting to stay here longer? Krishna's been waiting for us. Let's go. Let's join him in his transcendental abode. Yes, yes. Actually, it's a joyful moment. Yes, yes. We have in the Bhagavatam this nice story with, what's his name? Vitrasura, right? Who was Chitraketu in his previous birth. So there's this episode where he's fighting with Indra, and he knows exactly he will be defeated. He will die in this battle. And then in the fight, Indra drops his weapon. And actually, according to the etiquette of fighting, it means you're defeated, right? But then Vitrasura says, "Hi, what's happening? Pick up your weapon, continue fighting, do your duty, and. Yes, and he knows exactly he will die, but because he is actually a great devotee of the Lord, he was not fearful. He was looking forward to it. And then there's this part where, it takes Indra a whole year to cut through the big gigantic neck there of Vitrasura's body. So, and what did Vitrasura do? He simply withdrew and went into transcendental samadhi, simply waiting until he finally cuts through the neck, and then, oof, finally, let me go. So he was meeting death full of joy, and we can compare this nicely to some terminal disease, Let's say a person has cancer, has one more year to live, so they should take inspiration from Vitrasura, how all right, here, cut my neck, and he just went into samadhi, into deep remembrance of Krishna, and he was ecstatic, simply patiently waiting until finally he could leave, so that's how a devotee meets death, yes. Yeah. Yeah, so the approaches to this topic of death are very, very different from a devotee and a non-devotee. And of course, at the moment of death, we are tested. Krishna says in 8.5, what is it? Antakale chamamivasman mukvakalevam. So if you remember me alone, then you will reach my abode of this, there's no doubt. So Krishna says, me alone. He doesn't say me and your husband, wife, daughter, granddaughter, cat, dog, whatever people have. Even in India now, people start having dogs. Actually, when I came from Europe on the plane, there was one Indian fella, he had a cat on the plane. Yeah, some special bag with holes in it so the cat can breathe. And I overheard the whole story. He was telling his neighbor there in the seat why he wanted a cat, and he's taking the cat all the way to India. So this is all going on. Yeah, so Krishna says, me alone. And this is not so easy. To remember Krishna alone, that requires serious preparation. Yeah, yeah, not so easy. So basically, death is the test. Which relationship is most important to us? Which personality is most dear, most prominent in our life? That's what we are tested. Yeah. And yeah, these family relationships are very deep and strong. That's why we need the Vanapasta ashram. Yes, because these family relationships so deep, so much strong attachment is there, So if we don't move on after the kids are grown up and more or less established in life, we are meant to move on. The parents are meant to move on to the, retired phase of family life. So if we don't take this seriously, we very easily remember, on our deathbed, we remember our daughter, our granddaughter. Oh, what a shame, I didn't see her getting married. And then we may have to come back just to see that, how she gets married, So I'm not quite sure if this is really worth it, to come back one more time to the material world just to see how the granddaughter gets married. So very deep, In saying this does not mean we should better not get married and have children. No. Very often people misunderstand this, But yeah, for most personalities, even for most men, it is a necessary journey to go through. But the family life should be an ashram, not something else, And then we receive that purification. Actually, there is a nice analogy in the Bhagavatam. It says there, when the farmer is plowing the field, he turns the earth upside down, right? So please, everybody switch off your phones. I don't want to hear any more phones ringing. If one more phone rings, you get a punishment. You have to feed the devotees with some sweets tomorrow. So Yes, no more phone, otherwise you have to just do it prashadam to everybody. So yeah, so the farmer plows the field and the earth is turned around and all the seeds of the weeds are turned to the top, right? Yeah, you can imagine, you're following me? So, and then Bhagavatam says, if these seeds are not burned out completely, they will fructify again. And the weeds come again. So this desire for sense gratification has to be burned out. Just suppressing it will not bring the purification. They have to be burned out. And the way to burn them out is by fulfilling the desires in the frame of grihastha and at the same time seriously practicing Krishna consciousness. Seriously, good sadhana and that will burn out the seed. Yeah. That's the path, not to suppress it and try and avoid it, you know. And also complete, or let's say detachment, renunciation, is more complete if it is based on previous attachment. I give you an example. For a poor person who has no money in the pocket, very easy to say, oh, I'm renounced. I don't want to enjoy because he hasn't got any money anyway, you know. But the real test is if we have a lot of money in the pocket to enjoy, but we say, no, I've been there, done that, I tried all that, no need. That renunciation is more complete. And I see this very often in practical life in ISKCON, because I travel a lot in countries where standard of life is very low, like Bangladesh or Ukraine. Before the war, I was very involved in Ukraine for over 20 years. So these are countries with lower standard of life. So while they are in their environment, they may be very fixed up devotees, but then when they move to America, they get overwhelmed with the desire for sense gratification. And very often they completely lose their spiritual life. Completely. Yeah. I've seen this many times. So that proves the point I'm trying to make here, right? That complete renunciation and detachment is more solid. It's more complete. Just switch off your phones, my God. Oof. Here, first person punishment. Tomorrow you have to feed us with sweets. Did you hear? Sweet distribution tomorrow for you. Yeah, you can buy them there on the shop. Yeah, so the renunciation is more complete if it is based on previous attachment. Yeah, otherwise very easily it's simply suppressed. And then when the person comes in an environment where they can enjoy, then whoo, they get completely overwhelmed. So, and on the way back to Godhead, we will pass through all the heavenly planets, you know. So, and if our renunciation and detachment is not complete, oh, let me get off here. This looks really nice. And we jump off the plane too early, you know, before we even reach Goloka Vrindavan, you know. And then we end up in the heavenly planets, and then we come back again to the material world, you know. Yes. So yeah, just as a little side comment, just so you understand this correctly, that the fact that the family attachments are so deep and strong does not mean we can just bypass the whole thing, you know, but there have to be, these seeds have to be burnt out, you know, yes. And that's what the Grihastha Ashram is all about. And Prabhupada gives this nice analogy. He says the man-woman attraction can be compared to a thorn in the foot, right? When we step into a thorn, very painful, right? So, and we can take a second thorn, and if we are expert with a second thorn, we can remove the first thorn, right? But if we are not so expert, what happens? We end up with two thorns in the foot, right? Yeah, nobody's even thinking this is funny and laughing. So, we see this very often. Of course, the second thorn, which we should use to remove the first thorn, is the Grihastha ashram. But very often people end up with two thorns in the foot because their family life is not an ashram. So, and therefore, it only increases the entanglement and attachment. Yeah, so we have to be experts to know how to use the thorn. But that's a different seminar, different book. Okay, so back to the topic of death. So at the moment of death, we are tested. Who is the most important personality for us, right? Is it Krishna or somebody else? And as long as there's some other relationship in our life which is more important to us, we have to come back again and we have to finish this more important business. Yeah. Not so easy to go back to Godhead. Not so easy. Let's quickly understand what happens at the moment of death. So it's described, Dehinusman Yatadi. Also, Krishna gives the nice analogy of giving up the old and useless clothes, right? I think we all can relate to that. We all have had that experience. We have some old pair of pants or some old sari worn off. Okay, let's chuck it out, make it into rags, and let's get a new one. So that's what death is all about. The soul leaves behind the old and useless body and the gross body, and on the subtle body of mind, intelligence, force, ego, that's the subtle body, the soul moves to its next destination. Right? That's what happens. So we can understand this to be like a mysterious transformation, like a caterpillar transforms into a butterfly, leaves behind the old, dead, dry caterpillar shell and flies off in a beautiful, colorful butterfly body. So that's basically what happens. Not such a big deal. We just leave this useless thing behind and move on. Also with a vehicle, we can nicely compare it. I'm sure most of you are driving something, a scooter, a car, whatever. So we have to be very dutiful and fix the vehicle, like we have to be dutiful and fix the body, keep it in good shape, because it's given by Krishna, it's a gift of Krishna. But then, as the body gets old, this breaks down, that breaks down. We need more and more spare parts, and like in a vehicle. And then sooner or later we get to the point, no use to fix this old bomb. Let's just get rid of it, get a new one, right? We can all relate to this. So that's really what happens with the body, nothing else. And depending on the composition of the subtle body, mind, intelligence, for the ego, what kind of desires, attachments, impressions are there, that determines our next destination. See? And the subtle body has accompanied us for so many lifetimes already. There's so many impressions and information is stored there, like a computer chip. But the subtle body, in order to go back to Godhead, the subtle body has to be completely spiritualized and transformed. Completely. All the material impressions and desires and experiences, they have to be replaced with spiritual impressions, desires, experiences. Right? And only if it is fully spiritualized, only then we can get out of here. Not so easy. It requires a lot of internal work. See, Krishna consciousness is not some external thing where we just, we become a member of ISKCON, we put tilak on our nose, and we walk around and say, so I'm not sure, and then we think we can go back to Godhead. No, sorry, not so easy. To actually join Krishna in his transcendental abode, join his loving pastimes. My God, this is a very high goal. So we have to qualify ourselves. And I like to see death as a journey, like we fly somewhere into an unknown service situation. We may not be sure where we will be flying, but at least we can be sure we will again be able to serve Krishna and his devotees. Somehow we made it this lifetime that we came in connection, with ISKCON, that we can be sure, if we really spend the rest of our life serving Krishna and his devotees, if we don't make it back to God at this life, we will continue next life, where we left off this life. So that's already good. But if we want to go back to Godhead, the luggage allowance on that flight is 0. So yesterday I had 23 kilos check-in luggage, 8 kilos hand luggage, but flight back to Ghana, 0. Everything we have to throw overboard, dissolve, let go. All the attachments, we can't take anything, no luggage here. We're carrying so much luggage, so much conditioning. This all has to be dissolved. Like it's interesting to see every country, every part of the world where people are born, they have a certain conditioning. So there's the Indian luggage, the Russian luggage, the Latino, South American luggage, the German luggage, the American luggage, and two people with the same luggage, they usually can easily relate to each other. Oh yeah, you're carrying the Russian luggage like me. Okay, we can be good friends. We understand each other, You understand what I mean? That's why you see, even in Mayapur, I spend 3 months per year in Mayapur. So there the Russian devotees hang out with the Russian devotees, the Bengalis with the Bengalis, the Latinos with the Latinos, because we're all so attached to this luggage, this conditioning, and we think, oh, well, we carry the same luggage, we can understand each other very nicely. But if we want to go back to Ghana, we have to throw overboard this luggage. There's no Latino luggage and Bengali luggage and Galoka not available. So yeah, we have to do a lot of internal work. And very often what we think is my nature, very often people say that, oh, my nature is to be like this and this. No, It's not your nature as spirit soul. What you're talking about is your luggage. It's not your nature as spirit soul. Your nature as spirit soul, something completely different. Yes, completely different. You know? But we think my nature is the conditioning we are carrying. You know, yes, yes. And we have to dissolve that. You know, we have to let go of that. And then proportionally as we let go of this conditioning, then the real nature of the pure spirit soul shines through. You know? And then we can connect with anybody carrying any luggage. Doesn't matter, Chinese luggage, whatever. You know, you can connect because you connect on the level of the soul, you know. Yes. Yeah, so this just gives us some idea that to go back to Godhead is not so easy. It actually requires a lot of internal work. And it's interesting to see that actually the process of bhakti completely targets the subtle body, completely. Yeah, bhakti is completely targeting the subtle body. That's why Krishna says, remember me, focus your mind on me, always remember me and never forget me. And it comes all the time in the Shastra, you know? So, and that's there because remembering Krishna, focusing on him, never forgetting him, so that is meant to gradually transform the subtle body, you know. So we have to replace all our mundane impressions and desires. We have to replace them with spiritual impressions and desires, you know. Yes. And we may have that experience that for some years, if we really deeply practice Krishna consciousness, then our life before having practiced Krishna consciousness goes further and further away. It fades away into the distance. I mean, when I think back of my life before I met ISKCON, it's so far away. It's like previous lifetime. Really, yes. I mean, for us Western people, probably even more so, you know, because we have led a completely different life before with all kinds of nonsense activities. It's so far away from me after 40 years. It's like previous lifetime. And when I see some photos of me as a non-devotee, oh my God, you know, I don't even want to see them anymore. I threw them all out, you know, previous lifetime, no need. Yeah, so, but that means some transformation has taken place, you know, yes. So now I do want to share a little story with you, which maybe you have heard me sharing this before. I think some years ago in the old temple we had some session on this, but many of you may not know that story. There is a nice story, not from the Shastra, but from modern life in ISKCON, which illustrates this, you know, topic of reincarnation, how the soul moves on. So the story is about Raghava Das. You know the story of Raghava? Some of you, but not everyone. Hmm? You know, yes. So Raghava Das was a Prabhupada disciple. He was a brahmachari, and he used to go during the week on Harinam and book distribution, and on the weekends he came back to the temple and he was serving in the kitchen. And it so happened that one day Raghava left his body. He was a disciple of Prabhupada, you know, and he left his body in a car accident. Yeah. So, and of course, the devotees were quite disturbed. They wrote a letter to Prabhupada, Raghava left his body. So, but Prabhupada, of course, he was not disturbed. He saw things from a spiritual point of view. He simply said, it's okay, you conduct some memorial function for him, and he will continue in his next life. That's what he said. There's still the letter you can find in the folio guys. So, and it so happened that the soul who was in Raghavadasa's body, British body, man's body, took birth in an Indian Mataji's body, also in London. The whole thing happened in London, Indian Mataji. And she's initiated disciple by His Holiness Bhakti Swami Maharaj. Yes. And she took birth in a devotee family, so right from young age she practiced Krishna consciousness. She was immediately attracted to the deities and so, and with the help of astrology, you can prove that it is the same soul. You know? Don't ask me how, but if you Google Raghava and Ratnavali, you get the whole story. But please not now, okay? You can Google that later. So, yes. And Ratnavali Mataji, she also often had some dreams where she saw some episodes of Raghava's life. So, when we have some dreams which come again and again, this may also indicate some episodes from previous life, you know? Yes. So, and not only that, in London there is a Prabhupada disciple who knows the art of putting people in hypnosis, and under regression they can remember their previous life. So Ratnavali Mataji did this. And under hypnosis, she remembered so many activities when she was in Raghava's body. Yeah. So like that, it's a pretty well-established fact that Ratnavali Mataji was Raghava in her previous life, right? And also in Bhaktivedanta Manor outside of London, there's many devotees who knew Raghava. Many Prabhupada disciples, they're still around. So whenever Ratnavali Mataji meets some of them, she has this feeling, oh yeah, we know each other. You know? Yes. So this is from previous life. So we may also have that experience that we meet somebody and oof, immediately we feel like we know each other for so many years already, even though we meet the person first time, right? Yes. So this may very well go back to previous life. Actually, on my last visit to London, to Bhaktivedanta Manor, I met the driver who was driving the car in the car accident. So he is also still around. You know? Yes. Yes, so I talked to him about this whole episode. He didn't leave his body in the car accident. You know, it was actually not such a bad accident, but Raghava somehow left. You know. Yeah, so many people are still there who knew Raghava. You know? So now when His Holiness Bhakti Swami Maharaj heard the story first time, he asked Ratnavali Mataji a question. What's so funny? What do you think would be the most obvious thing to ask? Maybe not those who heard the story already. Let's see if the others have some idea. What would be the most obvious thing to ask Ratnavali Mataji? Huh? Any suggestions? What do you think? Hmm? Is it raining, is it? Okay. Good, I took my washing down. So what's the most obvious thing to ask? Huh? Come on. Some suggestion? Huh? What? Exactly. That's what he's asked. What the hell happened? You were in a British man's body, and now you're in an Indian Mataji's body. So how did this go on? What did you think at the time of death? Right? Most obvious thing to ask. So Ratnavali Mataji was researching this a little, and she asked all the Prabhupada disciples, what Raghava was like, and. So, and then they remembered, oh yeah, so during the week he was out on book distribution, Harinam. On the weekend he was in the kitchen, serving in the kitchen, and there was an Indian-bodied Mataji there. Yes, so you're laughing and you probably are thinking, oh, they must have had some love affair. He must have liked her so much. But no, it was the opposite. They were always fighting. They were quarreling. They didn't like each other at all. Yes. And that was enough for Raghava to do another round in the material world and come back in an Indian Mataji's body. Yes, that's how subtle it is. So we have the saying, attachment and aversion are the two sides of the same coin. You heard that before? You heard that saying? Yes? Yes? So here we have it. It's not enough to let go of our attractions. We also have to let go of our aversions too. Aversions are based on a certain kind of attachment, the attachment of being averse. Also an attachment. It also occupies the mind with some mundane impressions, with some aversions. You can't enter Goloka Vrindavan. Right? Yes. Yes. See? That's how subtle it is. Very easily we could think, well, he was a Prabhupada disciple, he was a brahmachari, Kijai, he was a book distributor, Kijai, he died on the battlefield, and still he came back in an Indian Mataji's body. And that is also a good warning to all the brahmacharis. It's not enough to be a brahmachari. Yeah. Because, and I'm not hinting at anybody of you here, I don't know you well enough, but being over 40 years in ISKCON, I'm observing so many things. And many brahmacharis, the only way they can maintain their brahmachari life is by developing an aversion towards women. Right? I'm sure you have seen this too, maybe even in your own heart. These women, they're all Maya, they're all crazy, they're all unintelligent and blah, blah, blah. So that's not going to help you to go back to Godhead. Next life, woman's body guaranteed. So you better remember this. You better remember this. Aversion is not the solution. Suppression of these desires is not the solution. We have to burn out the seeds. Burn out the seeds. And that's what we do in Grihastha. Yes. I'm not trying to convince you that you should get married tomorrow, but But yeah, good to know, because I come across this so often, how fanatic and averse the brahmacharis are towards marriage and women. Well, you have to come back. If you can't let go of these aversions, they're binding us just as much as the attractions. Yes, yes. And in Bhagavad Gita, there's quite a few verses connected with aversions, right? Yeah, you probably know them better than I do. So, yeah, aversions, we have to work through them, yeah. So now another couple of interesting things that Ratnavali Mataji, she has some birthmarks. She has a birthmark on the forehead and across the belly. So before I met Krishna consciousness, I was working in the medical field in Germany. And I was working with early born babies. You can treat them through reflexes and hope them to develop quicker and I remember distinctly I was there on the babies ward and I had this box with all the babies there in front of me all lined up. And one baby had some birthmarks. So I was asking some senior professor there who was also present. I asked, so why do some babies have birthmarks, some don't? I was always inquisitive. I thought this can't be a coincidence. There must be some reason behind it. Nothing happens by chance. So that baby has birthmarks, the others don't. So I asked him, and he gave me this answer. He said, oh, babies have these things. Nobody knows. That was his answer. But we can give a better answer. So why does Ratnavali Mataji have birthmarks? Anybody of the women? Huh? Yes, exactly on those parts, on the forehead, across the belly. That's where Raghava had his injuries. Actually, the whole Ratnavali Raghava story is also in the death book. And before I put the story in the book, I connected with Ratnavali Mataji and I sent her my description of the story just to make sure it's accurate, And she asked me, she said, oh, you want the death report, the post-mortem? I have it. And that proves that the injuries were exactly there. And I said to her, it's all right, no need. But yeah, she verified it, that her birthmarks are exactly on those places where Raghava had the injuries. So now, this is a medical proof how the subtle body takes the soul to the next destination. Because when we leave our body with a traumatic impact, right, then the mind thinks, oh, my head, oh, my belly. And these impressions will be in the mind, in the subtle body, and that takes the soul to the next gross body. And already in the womb of the next mother, these impressions are there. Some contemplation must be there of of the soul there. The subtle body must be still contemplating as an embryo, or my head, or my belly. And that leads to the formation of the birthmarks. And that's when the child, at the moment of birth, already has these birthmarks. I mean, this is quite amazing, isn't it? Yes, yes, wow, amazing. So it's a medical proof how the soul moves on from one life to another. You know. Yes. All right, so let me see if we have one or two quick questions just about that. There is a few more things I want to share.
Regarding the Lucknow story, what I read on the internet that Raghavas was again during Japa time and see that Mataji, and he will be very uncomfortable in the kitchen. But he didn't talk about his quarrel between them. So I don't know the additional details on that story. So I saw it was a case of attraction, and because attraction he was repulsive, not because he didn't fight with them. According to the internet, it was a little bit. But if it is more details, I don't know.
Well, as I said, I sent the story to Ratnavali, and she did put some things in, but she didn't put that in. So I cannot comment. But she didn't, correct the point that there was some tension and quarrels there. You know, that I don't know. But aversions are always based on some kind of attachment. It's very subtle, very deep. If we are neutral, then there's no aversion, and putting it, in the place of brahmachari life. So, if we are properly situated as a brahmachari, we can at least have some civilized human interaction with women when we have to have them for the sake of service, right? Yes. And if we all averse and all this, so then maybe we are not properly situated or something. Yeah, yeah. I can't comment on any other aspects of the whole thing. I mean, whatever I read on the internet, I didn't read these things. But depends what the source is. Maybe somebody else put so many more things in it or something. I don't know. But yeah, Ratnavali Mataji personally verified the version I'm giving in the book. Yes. Yes.
Mataji, you mentioned that while going back to God, the jiva might get attracted to the heavenly pleasures it can get. How could the question is like, how can contaminate the jiva with the desires can be taken back to God? It means he has some desire to enjoy. That's why he's getting attracted.
Well, that's why I'm saying we cannot reach Goloka Vrindavan as long as we have some attractions. So I was kind of more making that as a joke, that we will go past the heavenly planets and then we may get off the wrong stop, you know? It was more like a joke. But yeah, I mean, we will not even be allowed on the plane. We won't get the visa.
Regarding that, now that I want to ask a question.
Yeah.
Could you give me information about that day when he left the body in the earth of that world, how much gap was there?
That I don't know actually. I didn't research that. But I guess I could ask Ratnavali Mataji when she was born and when Raghava died. This could be indeed interesting that I actually don't know. Yes. Many devotees often ask me this, how much time is in between. I have to be honest, I haven't researched this too much because I think it's also a very individual thing, depending on what activities we have performed. If we have to go first somewhere else to enjoy some heavenly pleasures or maybe some few little hellish experiences. So I think it's a very complicated thing, and for some it goes quicker, for some it goes slower or something. But yeah, it may be a worthwhile. That's pretty easy to do for me, just to send her an email and ask which date she was born and when did Raghava leave. I'm sure she knows that when he left, the exact date. Yeah, this would be interesting to know. I'll try and remember. Huh? 2 years. He researched the story more than me. Really? 2 years a gap. Well, we don't want everybody to get distracted now. With the internet here. 2 years gap. I mean, that is surprising. That is really surprising. I didn't think it was so long.
From a very point of view also, that the 1 year journey to the town phase and 1 year in the pool. So
Oh yeah, the 1 year in the room. I forgot about that. Yeah. Good thought. But down, I only thought this is if we have committed some sinful activities, you know. So I mean, maybe in Raghuva's case, he may not have been so long a devotee, you know. He may have had quite some troublesome past there, like most people, you know, in the West have. It may not have been all, neutralized and purified and all that. So yeah, maybe, yeah, wow. Okay, good. All right, yeah, what else?
You told that Grest Ashram to burn the desires, burn the seeds. So not only like there's a fear, like how much to suppress, how much to express. Because there's a fear that by expressing we have also heard that it only increases. The itching only increases. It doesn't go down. There's a fear that you may prolong it. But
There you will find the answers. This is now a different seminar. You know, I don't want to be sidetracked. Family life as an ashram, secrets of success. Yeah, there's so many things in it. There is even a whole chapter about physical intimacy in marriage, how to live this principle of no illicit sex life. Nobody talks about it. People are confused. They don't know how to make it work, and I did some research. I came across interesting episodes with Prabhupada, where he says things that most of us have not heard. Yeah, because what Prabhupada says in the Bhagavatam is the highest goal to strive for. Sex only for procreation. But everything in Krishna consciousness is a gradual process. Everything, and that one too. And on the one-to-one basis, Prabhupada was very clear on it, shockingly clear. When people read the stories, they hardly even believe it that Prabhupada said this. Yes, yes. So we have to understand this in a mature way, Otherwise, if we just suppress, then, this leads to marriage problems. And very often divorce comes because of that. So my approach is, let's fulfill our needs in one marriage only, within that frame of one marriage. And then if we seriously practice, the seeds are getting burned out. Yeah. So, and then comes the Vanaprastha. Yeah, yeah. But because people don't practice this properly, then especially in the Western world and now in India, it's starting to, that people get a third time married when they're 69, because the seed still has not been burned out, Yes, yes, yeah. And then so many other things on internet. You can watch all kinds of things now, which we shouldn't be watching. Big problem. Pornography, big issue in ISKCON also. Yes, yes. So these things all happen when we don't deal with it in a proper Krishna conscious way, when we try and suppress things, yes. Yes, even prostitution, all these things are going on amongst devotees. Yes, we don't like to talk about these things, but these issues are real. Yes, just the other day, Nakula Prabhu put a whole 2-hour thing on YouTube. He has a proper treatment for people who are addicted to these kind of things. Yeah, I didn't watch the whole thing. I only watched half an hour or something. But yeah, he has a whole treatment plan. It's like a drug addiction. You're hooked, and how to get off it. Yes, he treats these people. ISKCON devotees. Yeah, yeah. Big issue, big problem. We cannot think that we can go back to Godhead like that, But some people do. They think, okay, let me weasel my way through life, not getting married, not having children, and then adopting such kind of habits. This will not get us anywhere. Yes, yes. That's outside of marriage. Yes, yeah. Because the fantasies take us outside of marriage. That's sinful. Whole big topic. I'm discussing it all in this book. There's a whole big section. And again, I sent this, especially this chapter, to quite a few initiating spiritual masters to get their feedback, just to make sure I'm giving a balanced thing here. And yeah, they authorized it. So some people may not be happy about it, well, it's too bad, but yeah, many people are. Okay. Anything from the lady side about the topic of death? Yes, here we have a question. Quickly bring her the mic. How do we move on from the strong attachments? Well, through the whole process of Krishna consciousness. Sorry, there's no shortcut. We have to practice the process properly with all the different items of Shravanam, Kirtanam, devotee association, serving, and. Best to have a counselor. Counselors helping us to balance things and how to move forward and helps us to adjust our life. And. So it's a whole process. Yeah. Ultimately, we have to develop a higher taste to give up a lower taste. So true renunciation detachment has to be based on the higher taste. Yeah. So that means it's a gradual process. We can't jump from one day to the other to the highest level, because we have to endeavor for the higher taste. And that burns out the lower taste. Then we can look back and say, I've been there, I've done it all, I tried it all. Krishna consciousness is the source of satisfaction, and then we can let go, like that. Okay, so I do want to move on because it's 7 o'clock. We've still got quite a few interesting points here. First of all, let me add a couple more things to the death topic, because there's two things. First of all, we said to remember Krishna alone we have to do. So, but remembrance is actually not in our control. So Krishna says, from me comes knowledge, remembrance, forgetfulness. Yeah, can somebody switch off the incense for me, please? Because I'm allergic to incense. Please put it upside down there. Yeah, so knowledge, remembrance, forgetfulness comes from Krishna. So it's not in our hands, right? We can only try and develop our relationship with Krishna, because ultimately bhakti is all about love for Krishna. It's all about relationship, you know. So we can develop our relationship with Krishna, and we make endeavors for that. And how? How do we develop our relationship with Krishna? What's the main and foremost way? Chanting the holy name. Yeah, yeah. See, our fear of death is also related to that point, that our relationship with Krishna is not established. The more that relationship is established, the more we will lose our fear of death. You know, then death will become that joyful moment when we can join him. But because our relationship is hardly established at all, that's why we are so fearful, because we are not deeply chanting. That's another whole topic. You know, the deep chanting, we just mechanically rattling something down, that will not do anything for our relationship with Krishna. But in any case, let's go back to that point, that Krishna has to appear on the level of our mind. Yeah. And only then we can remember. We can't force our way into remembering Krishna. That doesn't work. So I want to share a couple of stories. One story with my humble self. When I was a very new devotee, I was only 6 months in the temple, and I had to get a little surgery done, nothing life-threatening. And I was making this I was making this conclusion, okay, this experiment. Let me remember Krishna at the time when they put me in anesthesia, when I fall unconscious. Let me try and remember Krishna then, because I had heard already that we should remember Krishna at the moment of death. So I thought, okay, let me try and remember Krishna when I fall asleep. But then when I woke up again, I was shocked to realize that I didn't remember Krishna. Even had a little intervention there, nothing life-threatening, just being put to sleep for 15 minutes or what, And that was my first realization. Not so easy to remember Krishna, Yeah, yeah. So I was so new, Krishna did not appear on the level of my mind. But then there's another story. One Mataji in Ukraine before the war. I know her well. She was a serious devotee for 20, 25 years. And one day she had a stroke, and her right side was paralyzed. The right side paralyzed means left side of the brain is damaged, means speech and memory are lost completely. She could not remember anything, nothing. She could not even remember her own name. She could not remember any word of her language, Russian. Nothing, was all completely blank, completely wiped out. So, but brain has a good capacity to recover, so it gradually came all back. So, and when I met her the next time, I asked her, so what was it like not to remember anything? Even not your name, not a single word in Russian. What was it like? And she gave an interesting answer. She said, yeah, so smoky here, my voice is affected. Have we really switched over all this incense there? Yes. Can we open some windows, please? It's too smoky in here. My voice will not work properly. Just open the doors. Let's get some fresh air. Yeah, so she said, wait, no need to get all distracted. So she said, yeah, it was an interesting experience, not to remember your own name or nothing in Russian language. But she said, one thing I remembered, the holy name. And I was simply chanting in my mind the Maha Mantra. And I knew I will be all right. Wow. From a medical point of view, this is a miracle. You know, a person who does not remember their own name, forgotten, can't remember a single word in Russian, but then can remember the whole Maha Mantra, the whole Maha Mantra, not just one word, but the whole Maha Mantra. I mean, that's a miracle. Cannot be explained, you know. So that's a nice example how Krishna does appear on the level of the mind of a devotee. You know, yes, Krishna sees all my dear devotees in some struggling situation. Let me appear on her mind. You know, yeah. And there's a similar story also with one lady, Prabhupada disciple, Mother Isha. She also had a stroke, also memory, speech was lost completely. And because she was a little older, the brain didn't recover. And same thing again, only the Maha Mantra. That's all she remembered. And she was singing it all day long. All day. She ended up, unfortunately, in some non-devotee caring nursing home there. And she was just singing through the corridors of the institution all day the Maha Mantra, Kirtan, you know, yes. And then sooner or later she left her body, you know. But yeah, so we may think, oh, how tragic not to remember anything else. But no, this is Krishna's special mercy. All your nonsense is wiped out, deleted. No need to remember, you know. But one thing the person is allowed to remember, Maha Mantra, you know. Yeah, special mercy, you know. Yeah. Then one other thing. Very often when we talk about death, devotees say, well, I'm not so afraid of dying, but I'm afraid of all the pain that comes along with it. Right? Yes, can you relate to that? Yes, all the pain, so terrible, you know. So now there's also an interesting point with that, because pain is experienced on the level of the mind. That's where pleasure and pain comes from, you know. It's on the level of the mind. And the nature of the mind is, if the mind is strongly focused on something else, we can overcome the level of pain. Yeah. So in this regard, let me share one little story from my youth, which is a long time ago, 50 years ago. I used to play in a handball team, and I was the goalkeeper. And once we had a very exciting match. It was not just some simple training, but a match against another city in Germany. So, and I was the goalkeeper, and I broke my little finger here. It still has some funny lump there. And I could feel it really cracking. Oof, crack, you know. But because I had gloves on, I didn't see. But actually the finger stood to the side, 90-degree angle here, you know. But because I had gloves on, I didn't see it. And because I was so focused on the game, on winning it, which we did, that I continued playing with this broken finger for about 20 more minutes. And I did not feel any pain whatsoever. Nothing. Yeah. And only when the game was over and I took my gloves off my hands, oh my God. Meanwhile, my finger was all swollen and blue, standing to the side. So, and that's when the pain hit. Oh, so painful. You know? But before, I didn't feel anything. I was holding the boards with that finger. You didn't feel a thing. And this is a very well-known principle. Even let's say a mother is injured and has to save her child, an injured mother saving child. She can do all kinds of amazing things because her mind is focused, I have to save my child, and she will not feel any pain from her injuries. Or in war times, when a soldier is injured, he can, carry his companion and run, because his mind is focused on saving his and both their lives, so he will not feel any pain. So it's a well-known fact, that if the mind is focused very strongly on something else, we overcome the level of pain, So now going back to the topic of death, it means death is not only the test which relationship is most important to us, but whether we can absorb our mind so much in Krishna that we overcome the level of pain. That's what we are tested. How much we are off the bodily platform. Not only gross bodily platform, but subtle bodily platform. And His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Swami. Any of you have met him? Any of you have met Bhakti Tirtha Swami? One person. Okay, plus me, two people. Yes. So his departure, he left his body quite a few years ago. Can't even remember, 2003, 5. All that you remember, but you never met him. I've met him many times and don't remember. So, yeah, 2005, 20 years ago. So he set this amazing example, how to leave one's body. His Holiness Vardhana Swami, he parked all his traveling preaching. He spent the last 5 or 6 weeks with him in Sharanagati in America. And after Maharaj left, he gave a 5-hour Sunday feast lecture talking about his experiences. Anybody has listened to that? Few people. Yeah, you should try and find it on the internet. You can find the lecture. It's quite amazing. So, and he shares how they were absorbing their minds in reading Chaitanya Charitamrita, just them two, no big public programs, just the very few caretakers were around him. So, and they were reading Chaitanya Charitamrita, and in the evenings they were having ecstatic kirtans in a very small circle, just 3, 4, 5 people. And Maharaj was so ecstatic, Bhaktivedanta Swami, so ecstatic. At some point he was exclaiming, life cannot be better than this. For nothing in the world I would want to exchange my present situation with any other situation. Life cannot be better than this. Even though externally he was in such a suffering condition, completely emaciated and skinny, cancer all over the body, in the spine and the bones, one leg already amputated, and the doctors were shocked. They were saying, how is it possible for a person in such condition to be so blissful? Yes. And Maharaj said, we are not reading Chaitanya Charitamrita, we are entering Chaitanya Charitamrita. So he demonstrated this. And he didn't take any painkillers. No, his painkillers was Shravanam Kirtanam. Yes. And he was so ecstatic. Yes. So that's how a devotee is meant to leave this world. But we need association. Radha Swami was there, staying with him, until he would leave, giving us valuable association. By our own, very difficult. All our life, we need good association, and especially in this last phase. We need association, which uplifts us and helps us to let go and move out. Yes. So he set that amazing experience, that amazing example, demonstrating this principle that we have to absorb the mind. That's where we are tested. And that's basically what it means, that Krishna is so dear to us that we cannot think of anything else except Krishna and his pastimes. And we fully flood our mind with all kinds of sweet thoughts and. So he really set this example that it is possible, to overcome the level of pain. Yeah, it is possible, and leaving death, meeting death with joy. He did it. He was blissful, Yes. All right, so are there any more questions just about that? Because if not, then I would want to move on to the point of, accompanying others in that final journey. But let me see, do we have anything else? Nothing from the ladies' side. All right, then let's see what you have to ask.
I could ask from the last section.
Yeah.
Thank you for bringing us to the reality of what we have to practice.
Yeah.
So you said about the understanding of complete detachment, the example of money in the pocket, like that.
Okay.
The person who does not have money may not understand what exactly it is. So it could help us how we could understand till not having money in the pocket. Would be very
Well, the real test, well, see, that's, again, I'm sorry to say, in Grihastha ashram, Krishna gives you a little bit of money in the pocket. So, and then you have to show how you use it. So, in the Grihastha ashram, Krishna gives us a bit more independence. Yes, as a student living in the temple or living in the base or whatever, we may not have any money in the pocket. But as a rule, and even if we don't marry, even if we become a leader, a brahmachari leader, preaching, Namhata leader or whatever, then gradually we have a bit more money in the pocket. Krishna gives us some little facilities, some little opulences. Wealth is one of them. What are you laughing? It's not even so funny. So, and then let's see how we use it. And yeah, well, sorry to say, but I have come across a few scandals, where brahmacharis are misusing, money and using it for some funny things and whatever, Yes. So, I mean, whether we stay brahmachari or become grihastha, as a rule, as we get in a more prominent position or leadership position, well, the final test is guru. Our gurus, well, we have this joke in ISKCON, the sannyasis have more money than the grihasthas, So, and even there, sorry to say, some personalities were not using the finances so properly, and that may have been a reason why they're not sannyasis and gurus anymore, Yeah. So, we can't fool Krishna, We may be pretty good in fooling so many people, but Krishna we can't fool. We will be exposed sooner or later. I mean, I'm with a third Diksha Guru. Two of my previous Diksha Gurus are not Diksha Gurus anymore. So yeah. But I'm grateful for all my three Diksha Gurus. They all were the right Gurus at that time and brought me further. My whole life would have gone completely different. I would never have ended up in Bangladesh if it wasn't for my second Diksha Guru. He took me there. So yeah. But just to answer that point, Guru, and I once heard, I can't remember who said it, but one of the Diksha Gurus said, yes, being Guru, that's one of the last tests, where Maya gives you all this opulence and where you can either get carried away and get intoxicated by having so many followers and facilities to enjoy, or you remain detached, yeah. So Krishna will test us, along the way, no matter whether we are brahmachari or sannyasi or grihastha, yeah.
So, what kind of mood or attitude or principles that we keep in priority to not to fall into the dream?
Not fall?
Not really like to be cautious or to go on to go through the journey. What principles do we have to imbibe in our practice?
Well, again, there's no shortcuts. We have to practice the whole process properly. We have to be willing to take guidance from a mature person who can really help us to see, how we should go through life, because there is still a lot of immaturity, in our movement. And also this is connected because our grihastha life is not an ashram. That's the problem. That what we see, our married devotees, sorry to say, very commonly we cannot call it an ashram. It's not a place suitable for cultivating bhakti. That's what ashram is. And that gives family life a bad name. You look at our previous acharyas, Advaita Acharya, so many, they were all grihasthas, but their family life was an ashram, whereas ours is not. That's the problem. There's nothing wrong with the grihastha ashram, but we have to be trained how to actually mold our life into an ashram. That's the issue, yeah. Okay, let me move on because time is going. Yes, so let us move on to the whole topic of how to support others and also what considerations to take for our own departure. So usually let me start with this point, that especially once we reach 50 plus minus, we should think, in which community do I want to leave my body one day? Yeah, that's a very burning question. In which community do I want to leave my body one day? Where do I get the necessary support? And we should go there and serve while we have some energy. Yeah. Because care depends on personal relationships. We can't institutionalize care. It depends on personal relationships. If we serve in a place and become a valuable member of a community, then the care hopefully will come. Yeah, because we become dear to the devotees. They feel some indebtedness and. So then the care will come. But if we stay aloof, if we live further away, we just come and go as we like, we are not really an active member of a community, We can't expect that anybody will care for us. You know, that people drive miles just to help us there when we are facing death. We can't expect that. Yeah. And as general principles, of course, rural communities, people are less busy. There's more chance that we get the necessary support. City life is always busy, hectic. Everybody's got their things, their life, their family, their job, and, you know. So, but in a rural community, we have more chance to get the necessary support. That's a very important consideration because often people say, oh, I just rely on Krishna, Krishna will arrange it. But no, we have to make plans. We have to think. All our life, we have to make plans. And sometimes Krishna is not sanctioning our plans. All right, then we have to be flexible and detached enough to accept Krishna's plan. But we can't think, oh, Krishna has his plans, okay, no need for me to make my plans, because it all comes differently anyway. No, we have to plan throughout our whole life. We have to plan and then see what Krishna says to it, you know. So and also about this whole topic of leaving our body. We have to plan, we have to think about it, where we want to leave our body one day. Yeah. And actually, from a spiritual point of view, it is truly a blessing to get the final warning. Of course, the death warning is always there. We're getting older and more wrinkly, gray hair, teeth are falling out. You know, it's all happening. But then the final urgent warning is a blessing. So something like cancer is a blessing, actually. I would see it as a blessing because, okay, we can prepare. Like Kadambakana Swami. Who met Kadambakana Swami in person? Only a few people, yes. But you heard how he lived. So, you know, he had cancer for quite some time. So when he realized it spread and he didn't go for treatments anymore, you know, he was planning, he was visiting a few communities where he was very involved, Radhadesh, New York, London, and. So, and then he planned, okay, Vrindavan, that's where I want to live. And he planned, which devotees do I want to have around me? And he planned for the last 2 weeks, no more women around me. Yeah. And I thought, oh, good. I will take that into my list of things. No more men around me for the last 2 or 3 weeks. Yeah, good thing to remember. And then he made another amazing plan. He said, when I get too weak to sing, because he was a good kirtanier, and to sing you need a lot of strength, actually, you know. So he made this conscious plan. When I'm too weak to sing, I will fast from food and water. That's the dignified way to live, to fast from food and water. You know, not now, of course, that would be considered suicide. But when your body is on the way to fall apart, it's the most glorious and dignified way to leave this world by just fasting. All our sages and sadhus were doing it. Prabhupada was doing it. Kadambakana Swami was doing it. Bhaktitirtha Swami was doing it. That's the way to do it. And he made the clear plan. When I can't sing anymore, that's the time to fast. Yes. Yes. So good to make some plans, you know. And this may be a little shocking or disappointing to some here, some devotees here, but there is a statement in the Bhagavatam. A glorious death is when the family members don't even know that we are leaving. That's a glorious death. Yeah. So from a spiritual point of view, not a good idea to be surrounded by the family members, because we were just establishing how difficult it is to remember Krishna alone, how deep these family attachments are. So if we are taken care of by the family members, from a spiritual point of view, not very good. It is only good when the dying person is not a devotee. Then to be present as a family member who is a devotee, then that's good. Like I took care of both of my parents when they left. I had this very deep and strong desire that I do want to be there for them in this last phase. I didn't want to be there for months and months and years, and give up all my travels. But for this last two weeks, I wanted to be there. And I was always in anxiety whether I catch the right moment in my lifestyle. Traveling all over the world, not so easy to catch the right moment. But both times I managed by Krishna's mercy. So my father took 1 week, my mother 10 days. And I immediately packed all my preaching, canceled all my flights, rushed back to Germany. I kept them at home. I helped them to focus. And both my parents had an amazing departure, even though they were not as such practicing devotees. But they were very favorable and so on. Yes. So we need good association. Yes. So, and in that situation, it was beneficial for them because they were not devotees. But if they had been serious practicing devotees, initiated or whatever, then it is better to have then it's better if no relatives come. If other devotees take care, not the relatives. So this may be a little shocking for some here, because in India, of course, we have the whole culture that the children take care and so that's more the mundane aspect of the culture. But for those who want to go back to Godhead, not a good idea to be taken care of by family members. And very often I read these announcements on some social media or internet or whatever. Or such and such Prabhu, disciple of Srila Prabhupada, left this world peacefully surrounded by his family members. And I'm thinking, oh no, what a disaster, Yes, yes. How can you remember Krishna alone if your granddaughter is there and the wife holds your hand and all this kind of stuff? No chance. Guaranteed you have to come back. Yes. Yeah. So very often we don't consider these things even. Yes, we don't realize, yes. So, whole big topic, So I just have a list of a few points, and I want to just touch on a few points. As I mentioned in the book, is everything so much more in detail there, Yes. But yeah, I mean, talking about people sitting on your deathbed, even when you have friends, very dear friends, if they sit right next to your bed, how can you leave? How can you leave? Even if your guru sits there, how can you leave? You can't. And this I have experienced so many times. I've accompanied quite a few devotees and my parents. Very often I observed this, that a guru sits the whole day at the bed of a dying devotee. And then as soon as he leaves to take rest or take prasadam, that's when the person sneaks out the back door, But while he sits there, how can you go? Your guru is sitting there, your dearmost person there, how can you leave? Yeah. And so many people have also shared this with me, that, when the relatives sit there, you can't leave. you know, then the dying person has to patiently wait until they finally get tired and they step out and then they can leave, you know. So good to know these things, you know. So when somebody is about to leave, we have to give them space. Yes, we have to withdraw. In order to leave this world, we have to withdraw. Interesting to understand, all the animals who live in herds, like cows, elephants, they never die surrounded by the herd. The herd leaves them because they know this personality is dying now. So let him be alone, you know. Yes, yes. While when, like the elephants, when an elephant from the herd is in some difficulty, they stay, they try to help and, you know, but when they know this elephant is dying, they leave them behind, you know. And that's basically how we have to do it. We have to extricate ourselves. We have to withdraw. And my experience is when people are about to leave, they don't want to have all these people around. They just want a very small group of caregiver takers. Like my mother left. When she left, she actually was diagnosed with COVID, you know. And she was saying to me, thank God I've got COVID. Nobody's coming anymore. She was glad. Yeah, yes, yeah, she was glad. So usually a dying person, you know, really comes to the point where they don't want to see all these people anymore. They just want to withdraw and get ready to go, you know. Yeah. And if we accompany somebody, we have to allow that, we have to understand that, you know, and give them space, leave them a little alone during the day for a few hours, because dying we all have to do alone. Nobody can, you know, be there with us or what, you know. And I mean, let me share one story when my father left. This is quite a while ago, 2008 he left. I also took care of him. He was an India fan. He came for the last 20 years of his life, every year, 6 weeks to India, traveling all around South India, you know. So, and then just half an hour before he left, he was completely conscious, fully, you know, there. He was reaching out to me saying, oh my dear such and such, I will not tell you what he said. He used some childhood nickname, so I'm not going to tell you, otherwise you're going to put it on Facebook. Did you know what Devaki Mataji's nickname is? This and that. You know? So he reached out to me, oh my dear such and such, wanting my hand, but what did I do? I didn't take it. I didn't take it. Even though I was right there, I didn't want to, you know, keep him here. I wanted to give him the space to let go. Yes. So his reached out hand was simply dropping back into the pillow. You know, he knew I was there. I was giving the support, but I didn't want to interact on that level anymore. Oh yeah, my dear father and my dear such and such. No more, no more. You know. So sometimes when people hear this, they say, oh, how cool. The dying father was reaching out to her and she didn't take his hand. No, but we have to be a little off the bodily platform. We have to, you know, be on the platform of relating from soul to soul. And if we can relate from soul to soul, the service of accompanying a person in this last week or two is very sweet, because everything else is completely unimportant. You know, everything is insignificant. You can really relate from soul to soul, and it can be a very sweet time. With all the people I accompanied, I had that experience. It was a very sweet time, you know. Yeah, very intimate and personal and sweet. But we have to be a little off the bodily platform. You know, we have to have the spiritual vision. You know, But if we get all bewildered by, seeing how the body falls apart and then, yeah, we may break out in tears and get all emotional or what, and that will not be helpful. So when a person is about to leave, very helpful to give them some knowledge, what happens. Even if the person is not a devotee, both of my parents, they were not really practicing, but I told them so. Now, you will watch, you will experience how your body falls apart, and you will leave the body behind, and you will see your empty dead shell lying there. And mind intelligence for the ego will take you to the next destination. You will experience it all. Like with my father, I asked him, can I put tilak on you? He had never worn tilak in his life. But one day before he left, people are usually grateful for every little thing and support, So he said, yeah, all right, put tilak on. So, and then afterwards he said, so now I have tilak? I said, yes. Good. He said, good. He never had tilak on before, but there he said, good. And I put neck beads on and I explained to him, so there's two teams, the Yamadutas, the Vishnudutas. So we want to make sure the right team is coming here, so you better put the neck beads on. He happily accepted it. He was never wearing neck beads in his life. Yes. So, but he happily accepted it. And then when I explained him the whole thing, then I said to him, but you probably don't believe that anyway, right? And he said, laughingly, he said, no, of course not. But yeah, he happily accepted the neck beads and the tilak. Yeah, so. Yeah, so we have to give knowledge. With my mother too, I explained her many times. I discussed so many things with her before. So the worst thing is when people are always sentimental, or how do you feel? That's the last thing you want to hear. How do you feel? No, we want some knowledge, some understanding, somebody who can relate to what we will be going through. you know? Yes. So giving some knowledge, even if they're not devotees. Yes. And no sentimental things and feeling pity and sorry for the person and. This is not helpful, Yes. And the more knowledge we give, the more the fear reduces, then we will realize, okay, it's just a journey into a different situation. It's just like sitting at the airport at the departure gate, waiting for the flight. So there's some delay, all right, let's wait. That's what I said to my father too, and he could really relate to this because he was traveling all around the planet constantly. So he thought it was a good example, sitting at the gate and waiting for the flight, like that. And of course, transcendental sound should be there. Even if a person is not leaving their bodies, but if they're very sick, we should arrange for some sound vibration, some very soft, mellow, melodious kirtan, some little guitar, something, We should never let a person just lie there, Yes. And kirtan does not have to be loud. Very, very soft is good enough. Because as we know, the hearing is the last sense perception which stops functioning. So even a person in coma can hear everything. There has been all these, experiences where a person was in coma for 2 weeks, and when the person woke up, they could repeat exactly the conversations the doctor had at their bedside. They heard everything, and doctors were shocked. Oh my God! So we better watch out what kind of discussions we are having in the presence of the patient. So no need to scream the Maha Mantra into people's ears. That may really put them off completely. my experience again is that when people are leaving, they become very sensitive to noise. They don't want any noise and restlessness in the house. They want it just all peaceful and quiet, you know. So when my father left, for the last 24 hours, I was staying in the same room with him on the floor, sleeping on the floor. And I put this very mellow kirtan, very sweet, mellow, harmonious kirtan. And I put it very quietly, volume very quiet, just audibly. And I could feel it myself that this enters so deep into your consciousness. It was playing the whole night. So that melody stayed with me for a whole week. That's how deeply it enters, you know, the consciousness. Even though you can hardly hear it, that's enough, you know. Yeah, and it was interesting, you know. There was some other relatives there when my father left. And my father asked, oh, what's that music there? And then one of the relatives said, oh, your daughter put that on. Shall we switch it off? Because they were not so favorable, you know, to Krishna consciousness. And they asked, oh, shall we switch it off? My father said, no, no, leave it on, leave it on. But only because I put it on so softly. That's why he wanted it on. If I would have turned it up more, he probably guaranteed he would have said switch it off. Would have been a disturbance, right? But if we put it on very quietly, hardly audible, you know, yeah, then he allowed it to be on, and it enters deep into a person's consciousness. So yeah, there's so much misconception that devotees think we have to scream the Maha Mantra into people's ears. You know, no need, no need. You know, we become so sensitive towards noise. I mean, already now I can't tolerate this loud, passionate kirtans. What to speak of when I'm leaving? My God, you know, I don't want to have this loud, passionate stuff around me. You know, yes. Yeah, I'm making already plans, you know, who I want to have around me and who definitely not, you know. Yeah. So good to plan it a little bit, you know. Another nice way how to bring the mind to Krishna is by looking at these nice BBT paintings. Prabhupada was saying these paintings are the windows to the spiritual world. You know, this may be easier than just reading the Bhagavatam. I mean, already in a normal Bhagavatam lecture, people fall asleep when there's too much reading. Right? We have already trouble in a healthy state to, you know, hear the reading. What to speak of when we leave our body. I don't want to have anybody just sitting there reading to me. You know, no. There's better ways to bring the mind to Krishna. You know, looking at these beautiful paintings, as long as we can still look. I've already chosen my paintings I want to hopefully see when I'm about to leave, you know. Yes, I'm meditating about these things, you know, and you should also, you know. Yes, yes. Yeah, because when you look at these paintings, within your mind you can actually enter these paintings. Yes. So then you're already entering the spiritual world there. You know, yeah, that's much more helpful than just somebody reading to you. Right? Yeah. Yeah. So the painting's a good idea. Yes. So and also let's remember to leave one's body is not a public performance. Very often, you know, people are just curious. Oh, I want to see that dying person. No, sorry. Come when you can serve. Come and serve beforehand, but not in these last few days. just coming, gawking, or what does he or she look like, or I want to see. No, it's like intruding, the privacy of a person. It's a very intimate and private thing to leave. So I'm really hoping I'll get some good notice. And while I can still talk, I want to give some programs, wherever it may be, hopefully Marco. So, and then people can come and say goodbye and have the last association. But then at a certain time, doors are closed. Sorry, no more, you know. And I just want to have 2 or 3 caretakers who take turns, and no more visitors. No. I don't want to have people just coming, staring at me, looking, oh, what does she look like when she's leaving now? No, no. It's not a public performance because there is a certain fascination there. Even when there's heavy car accidents with half dead bodies lying around, people usually stop and look. Isn't it? Yes, yes, and often creates so much disturbance and hazards there, just wanting to look and film and all this. In Europe, this is getting punished when you film a person who is in a hopeless and injured position. Yeah, it's fine. Yeah. Yeah, so there is a certain fascination there, but no, no, sorry. Yeah, it's not a public performance. So if people want to, offer some service, that should come when the service is needed, you know? Yes, and not just in the last minute. For so many weeks and months and years, people never showed up, and then one day before, oh, I want to see that person. No. Okay, and my voice is getting tired. We mentioned it already. Better not to have the other gender around. Also for relatives. In fact, the relatives, the last 2 weeks, they should be invisible. No more relatives around. Yeah, and it's not only me saying it. I meanwhile met a few devotees who told me that their Guru Maharaj also told them that. No more relatives, no more children, husband, wife, no more. Yeah, otherwise how can you remember Krishna life? And definitely not people from the other gender. Yes, even devotees, because this man-woman attraction is so deep, so subtle, very easily some emotional dependence starts entering. So no more people from the other gender there. Yes. Also, as a caregiver, we have to be very sensitive because the person who is about to leave, they're in a very vulnerable position. And we should not impose things and try and use our position to control them. This often happens in a subtle way that we want to control, and impose what we think is good. No, we have to be very sensitive. We have to tune into that person and find out what that person wants. Like, for example, when my mother left, that's only 2.5 years ago or something. Or not, yeah, 3 years ago. She asked me to accompany her in the Christian belief. And I said, good, fine, no problem. So I dug up, I found all these nice YouTube films where, some Christian people read these nice Christian prayers. It was almost like rediscovering Christianity for me. Yes, because They actually say the same thing we say. They just don't practice it anymore. That's the whole problem. But the prayers, it sounds like Rupa Goswami crying out to Krishna, longing for God, and it's all there. It's all there. Yes. So I was playing all these nice videos to her, with a deep, warm voice. They were reading her favorite prayers and. So we have to be a little broad-minded, you know. Yes, we cannot think, oh, it has to be Hare Krishna, and so if somebody else has some different path and wants to be accompanied in that way, no problem, no problem. And she left her body fully conscious, hearing her favorite prayer. I mean, longing for God. I mean, what better way to live is there than this? Yes. Yeah, so we have to be very sensitive and broad-minded and tune into the person's need. Yeah. A couple more little things. I mentioned it already briefly, the fasting. My mother did this too. She already, when she was pretty well, she always was saying to me, I want to do it like my friend in the village did. She stopped eating and drinking, and in 4 days she was gone. And she always said, that's how I want to do it one day. And surely enough, she did. She came to the point where she made a conscious decision. I don't want to eat and drink anymore. And she said to me, you have to help me to pull this through. So, even if I ask for something, don't give it to me. She was so determined, so determined. Yeah. And then there was the moment when she asked for some water, and I didn't know what to do. Yeah, it's pretty painful when the person wants some water. So I said to her, oh, remember you asked me not to give you anything. Oh, yeah, that's right. She completely dropped it. Yes, yes, yes. And I asked her, so is it difficult for you not to have some water? She said, no, not difficult. And then she said, it's just that we always want something to be offered to us. We enjoy having somebody offering something. So I said to her, so now all I offer you is my care and affection and devotion. And she had this big smile in her face, yes. So she just dropped drinking, yes. And there's a few little tricks. You just moisten the lips. You let people suck a little bit on some towel that's dipped in some water or something, just to moisten a little bit the mouth and the lips, and put some cream on and. So we have to know a little bit of physical care and. But yeah, actually the body does not even want anything anymore, actually. So some dryness is there, but fasting is the secret how to live. Yeah. And within 4 days, boom, she was gone. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, all these things of putting people on the drip and glucose and, oh my God, that just extends the whole battle. No need. Yeah, oh, my mother was really cool. She made a whole document, no life extending, and no, don't put me in the hospital, and. Yes, yes. So that's the way to live. And another thing, which is really important, this topic of morphine. Many people and even devotees, especially when they're fearful of death, they ask for morphine. Right? Morphine, you heard of morphine? No, it's a drug. Morphine. Morphine or morphine, right? Yes, it's a drug. And in the outside world, it's the most common thing that people give to a dying person because everybody is afraid of death. So just pumping people full of morphine, that's what they do. But this morphine is a drug. I recently, last year, I accompanied one devotee in Mayapur, and she was taking morphine, heavy dose for a long time, 3 months or even longer. Yeah. And the doctor explained to me, he's actually the main caregiver of Jagat in Mayapur, so I know him. And he explained to me that this morphine gives you this illusory happiness. Yeah. And then you feel, this is really good. And that's exactly what this Mataji I accompanied in Mayapur. She at some stage, she was leaning back in her bed and she's saying, this is really good. This could go on forever. She was enjoying the whole thing through this morphine, giving her this illusory sense of happiness. And everybody's coming and showing some interest and talking and giving you some care. And she was just starting to enjoy the whole situation. That's what the morphine does. And then, of course, we cannot let go. Yes, we cannot let go. We cannot so easily move on. So my experience is that all the devotees who took morphine, they often have a big struggle to leave. Yeah. Because they're hanging on until death really comes and boots us out of our body. And then the departure is not so auspicious. Then usually we pass through like anything and we talk all nonsense and the pulse goes up to, 300 a minute and, and then poof, finally we are kicked out. This is not such a good way to leave. So this morphine is a no-no for devotees. All right, painkillers, if you can't tolerate the pain, okay, painkillers. But no morphine, not a good idea. Not a good idea. It makes you feel comfortable in the whole situation. It's a drug. Even healthy people take morphine. They're morphine addicts. Yeah. Yeah, so I find this quite important to understand. I never knew this before so clearly until I accompanied this one devotee who was taking a lot of morphine, Yes. And that gave me that realization. And there's one more thing which I have to share. So it looks like Vanapasa Ashram, we don't have time for it anymore. It's 8 o'clock. But one more thing I want to share. Mobile phone. Oh, I have accompanied people who just could not switch off their mobile phone. They were sleeping in the bed with a mobile phone next to them. And middle in the night, sending some WhatsApp messages. Yes, I'm still alive. Ah, so binding. I mean, thank God I live without a mobile phone, just in case you don't know yet. I'm traveling the whole world. I don't have a phone. I only have a laptop. That's enough entanglement. But I'm hopeful that it will not be so difficult for me to switch it off and tell somebody else to continue answering my emails, Yeah, yeah. So binding. People are so addicted to the mobile phone, you know. I conduct every year a holy name retreat in Ekachakra over Christmas. Some of you have attended it. Even there, I request people to switch off their mobile phone for 3 days. Hardly anybody can do it. People are so attached, so addicted. My goodness. Yeah, and once particularly, I had this person. She was just not switching off the mobile phone. And she was saying to me, I think I'm ready to go. And I said, well, unless you come to the point where you can switch off your phone, you're not ready. Sorry. You're hanging on. You're hanging on. Right? Very clear. We have to withdraw. We have to let go. We have to, wind up everything. Yeah, so and it was very sad to observe, I just couldn't convince her to switch off this mobile phone. And up to the moment of death, people had this impudence to ring her still. Oh, how are you? What do you see? Can you see Krishna? I mean, come on. What is this? Yes, but this was happening. And then even in the moment when she left, oh, I am with you, and Krishna's also there, and I am there too. Oh, and what do you see? Tell me, what is it like? My God, really terrible. Yeah, so we have to come to the point where we can switch off the phone, you know? Yes. So, yeah, so all these things are good to know. My parents even didn't have a phone. I mean, my parents had such a glorious departure, more easy than many devotees. Yeah, because they were the old school. They didn't have a mobile phone. They didn't even watch TV, no computer, nothing. They just had books, and they were happy I came. I helped them focus. I helped them to let go and move on. Woof, boom, yes, fully conscious, no morphine. I mean, my father, when he was about to leave, final stage of cancer, and the doctor came. And my father said, Doctor, what does he want? I don't need a doctor. Tell him to go. And then he was standing in the door of the doctor. Oh, maybe you need some medicines. No need for medicines. Just please go, So he just kicked him out, Yes. Yeah, so that's how he left. Last final stage of cancer. He didn't want any medicines. No need. Go, Yeah, so that's a dignified way to live, yes, yes, yes. Yeah, so yeah. I mean there's so many more things to say. But let me conclude with this. Especially when our parents are not devotees. I highly recommend the devotees to take care of them and really help them to focus. It really makes any relationship perfect with all its imperfections if we can be there and give assistance in this crucial time. Yeah, yeah. And what is the use of all our preaching if we cannot give people that quality time and support in that crucial phase? What's the use? No use, Yes. Yeah, that's why sometimes I have parked all my preaching and went to devotees who were about to leave because I had a deeper relationship with them. And what's the use of all our relationships? If then I would say, oh, sorry, I'm too busy traveling preaching. You know? Yes, we have to be personal, and at least for some people, we have to sacrifice ourselves to really help them in that crucial time, you know. Yes. Otherwise, what's the value of our relationships, you know? Yeah. Yeah, so very important part of service. I mean, once when I cannot travel so much anymore, I would like to retire in Maripur and actually dedicate more time to this service to help people leave. Because so often people go to Maripur to leave, you know, but then, yeah, there's not so many people there who are actually really trained and a little more experienced, you know, in how to actually give the support. I've seen this too, that people want to support, but because they're too emotional, too sentimental, they only cause trouble, you know. They don't let the person leave, and then they interfere, and then there's a whole battle amongst the caregivers, and oh my God, you know. So that's why I don't want to do it like that. I'm already asking now certain people whether they're willing to come and be there for me for the last 10 days or something. Yeah. Yeah. I carefully choose the people who are, you know, Krishna conscious enough and not sentimental, a little off the bodily platform, serious enough in Krishna consciousness to really give me the support I need. And not all this sentimentalism there, you know. Yeah. All right. Any quick question? Okay.
Hare Krishna, thank you very much for some very valuable input. I have a clarification. I need a clarification on one point. I have heard that one is not able to think of Krishna at the time of leaving the body, but if one is able to think of his, if one is able to think of his spiritual master, still he gets the benefit of going back to the spiritual world because the spiritual master is a pure devotee of the Lord.
Well, it's a tricky thing because it depends a little bit in what mood we think of the spiritual master. Let's say, you know, a lady is emotionally attached to her guru. Well, if she thinks of her guru in emotional attachment, then she may not go back to Garuda because the remembrance has to be pure. So it's not so clear, you know. And also, let's be clear in this, our Diksha Guru is meant to connect us with Prabhupada. So, and that connection should bring us to Krishna, you know. Yeah. And if our remembrance is not pure, I'm not so sure if we will make it back together. Not so sure. Yeah.
Krishna. Mataji, we hear so many stories of Radhadas in Nepal, where we have to come back again.
Yeah.
This type of new stories are quite often. But is there any real story of the devotees? Of not I'm saying that in this who come here and again go back to their but of the sadhaka like us, which is there is a testimony that we have gone back to Godhead.
Well, who can tell, Prabhu? Who can tell? You know, nobody can tell. Nobody can give that. We can say, yeah, we think most likely, but who can give the 100%, you know, testimony that this person has gone back to God? I don't think anybody can, because also there's that understanding that we take birth one more time in the planet where Krishna personally appears, and we get trained there more how to serve him, you know. But this will still be somewhere in the material world, right?
Like maybe spiritual master said that confirmed that
Huh?
maybe spiritual master would have confirmed
Well, there's so much talk, but who can really 100% say? Nobody can. Nobody can. You know, we may take birth somewhere in the material world where Krishna appears and performs his pastimes to get more trained. So then we're not in the spiritual world yet, we are still in the material world. Who can tell this? You know?
One more question. Like, sometime, like in my case of one of my relative, at the age of 78 or 79, so she left her body. Okay, I know she was not in the body throughout the life, never been anything like that. But in the last moment, people around her, they were chanting the names. Okay, and Tulsi leaves also in unconscious state, put on their Ganges water and all
Yeah,
these things.
yeah.
So how we should understand this?
Well,
She went back or because everyone was
no, no, I mean, you see, it's not so easy. We have to transform the whole subtle body. All our, I've shared it all, that all our mundane experiences, desires, impressions, they have to be replaced with spiritual desires. So, if a person leaves like that, it's an auspicious birth, but guaranteed they will continue in their next life. It's not such an easy thing, Prabhu. Yes, yes, yes.
so
You
that
know?
Ankalchamame Visman, that it is just getting the vibration going into the ears, may not enter on to messages. Is it? Should we understand that way?
Just hearing the sound, not enough. Of course, there's always, you know, Krishna's unconditional mercy there or something, but we can't count on this. We can't count on
That may
this.
not be necessarily a remembrance. Correct. If remembrance is there, then they can go on.
Well, as we said, remembrance is not such a cheap thing. Krishna has to be willing to appear on the level of our mind. So who can tell what that person remembered? Nobody can tell. It's between Krishna and that person. But anyway, especially if people have not practiced serious Krishna consciousness, so if they hear the holy name, that will take them to the next destination. I mean, my father heard the holy name, but I don't think he went back to Godhead. He went to Kerala. 2 hours before he left, he talked about Kerala, how nice it is there and how there's such beautiful big houses. And so it was almost like he was informing me where he would go. So I'm sure he's there. Yes, took birth in a Vaishnava family and continuing there. You know, so he heard the holy name, everything. He had tilak on, neck beads, everything. But I don't think he went back to Godhead. No, he had too much attachment still. It's not so easy, Prabhu.
Okay.
Yeah,
And Mataji, you said fasting is the secret.
yeah.
So is it so that the person leaves his body because of fasting, because of prolonged fasting, or that is the symptom which was there at the time of leaving the body?
Now, see, when the body shuts down gradually anyway, on the way to leave. So when we fast, it simply speeds up the whole process. And it's so natural because the body does not want anything anymore, does not want. I've seen it. People don't have appetite. They cannot digest. So that's when people get the glucose drip and all that. But rather than keeping people alive artificially, people should just fast and get out. Right?
Understood. Thank you, Mataji.
Okay. So now, before you all get up and leave, let me quickly say something about these books. So we have the first one to the right there is Spiritual Culture, Krishna's Divine System. Some of you have seen this book already. The whole book is about women. Every woman should read this book. We women are very powerful. We have a very powerful Shakti. And Bhagavatam says we should be the power of inspiration to the men. And we should not compete with them, But because man-woman equality, the women compete these days. And that's what weakens the men. That's why the men in Kali Yuga become irresponsible and weak. One reason is because we women don't empower them. We empower ourselves. Switch the incense off, please. Yeah, we empower ourselves. We want to be the hero instead of making the man the hero. So every woman should read this book. And every man who wants the support of a woman should also read this book. And by the way, this book is used in the Brahmachari ashram in Pune, Chowpatty. They have this book and use it for training the brahmacharis so that they clearly understand that this man-woman equality puts the whole human society upside down. That's what you understand when you read this book. Yeah. Then we have sheltering relationships. This is all about the importance of having a counselor. So when you read this book, you will become convinced that without having a counselor and eventually becoming a counselor to others, we actually cannot make advancement. We have lost so many devotees because we did not realize. You know, like our gurus have hundreds and thousands of disciples. Many of you are Japataka Maharaj's disciples. I've been to his initiations where he initiated 2,000 devotees in Bangladesh in one session. You know, so how can our gurus possibly know each and every devotee's individual situation? They can't. So people need this well-wishing friend who guides us, who corrects us, and sometimes pulls our ear a little bit. You know, yes. Then we have the false ego, our constant companion and troublemaker. I think tomorrow we have one session on this topic, but as you see, there's a whole book on this. False ego, very subtle. We easily miss it, and we can miss the whole target of Krishna consciousness by feeding and boosting the false ego instead of subduing and dissolving it. It's all happening. When we get offended, so often that happens. What is it? False ego, crying for justice. We want revenge. That's when we can't forgive and move on. And there's a whole chapter on chanting the holy name in Japa and Kirtan. Very helpful, like a summary of a holy name retreat. Then we have entering the Grihastha ashram. We have a session on Sunday morning, how to find a compatible spouse. This is not only for the ladies, this is also for unmarried men. It's for the parents, because especially here in India, we have to fine-tune our matchmaking a little. Yes, people only look at caste and money and nothing else. But Prabhupada says, if the taste and character differ between the man and woman, their combination will be unhappy. So it's taste and character, not caste and money. Yeah. So there's a whole list of over 200 topics which the boy and the girl should discuss with cool head, without pink glasses. That's why I made it pink, the cover, because people have the pink glasses on and then they can't see what they get themselves into. See, this is the the crucial thing in India, that the parents don't give the two enough time to talk. You know, people just meet for 15 minutes in the temple room, the parents make the deal, and set. They're getting married. I mean, this is completely ridiculous. You know, yes. Even when you buy a computer, you know, you check out this model, that model, you know exactly what do you need, what do you don't you need, what do you want, what are you looking for, you know? Yes, so what to speak of a lifetime decision of getting married, you know? Yes, it's ridiculous. And now in India, the divorce rate is going up. Yeah, even in wonderful communities like Pune, Chowpatty, they have divorce already after 6 months of marriage. That is because after 6 months, they have gone through the topics in daily life and they realize we are not matching, and then people separate again. See, in former times, people would not separate, even if the marriage was suffering from day number one, but they would not separate. But now times have changed and people get divorced. And if we don't fine tune our matchmaking, then people want the love marriage, which I call lust marriage. Doesn't sound so romantic anymore. Lust. But that's what it is. So that's not the solution. Lust marriage, that's what people do in the West. That will even bring up the divorce rate even higher. So we have to fine tune our matchmaking. So this is what this book is all about. All devotees who are not married yet and eventually want to get married, they should educate themselves how to do it. The parents should read this, matchmakers, guardians, counselors, they should read this to understand how to serve as a matchmaker. I have been bringing many couples together in the Western world, but please don't ask me to find a husband or wife for you. But yeah, I'm following this system, so it's tested, it works. Yeah, and it's step by step described here. Family life as an ashram, secrets of success, I already mentioned. How to create the culture of bhakti in the home, so it is really a place for bhakti. Most devotees' whole life is not, sorry to say. Yes, and there's this whole chapter on physical intimacy, so many practical things. It's like a handbook for successful Krishna conscious family life. So it should be in every household, this book. Yeah. And then last but not least, Vanapasa Ashram meeting death with joy. So we didn't have a chance to touch upon the Vanapasa Ashram. So please get the book. There's so many more things about death which we did not have time to discuss. And it's a whole, gives you an understanding of Anupasta. Even for the young folks, you should know what it is all about. So if any of you would like to get some books, my stock is limited. So the last four, they are 350 each. The first two are 300 each. Many people get the whole set. If you don't have any books yet, whole set is 2,000 rupees. Simple figure. And you can pay cash or with phone, QR code. Yeah. So it would be my greatest honor to put these books in your hands. Okay, looks like Madhusudan Prabhu wants to say something.
Actually, I want one of you all to acknowledge something. I want one of you all to acknowledge Devaki speaking what you liked about today's program. Did it intensify your desire for spiritual life? Anybody wants to share? Somebody? Yeah, please come over.
But please, the others, stay and get some books. Don't walk out.
The class was really wonderful. The thing which inspired me very much, you said that the time of death, when a person is suffering like anything, unconscious or anything, a painkiller for him is Sankirtan and devotees association.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for sharing.
Striking point that you mentioned, I never thought was about aversion, how aversion could be binding as well. Never thought of it. It's a very important point. A lot to think about it.
Yeah.
A lot of contemplation required there.
Yeah.
Secondly, people talk about having loving parents. Now it turns out that in the second childhood of old age. One
Second
means
child.
the equivalent of loving parents or extremely loving parents and a very highly incubated atmosphere. Like babies are kept in incubators, we need incubated atmosphere at the time of death. And Prabhupada says that in the last 20 years, 20 years of one's life, it should be extremely intense Krishna consciousness. So I suppose for the last 20 years, we need extremely loving parents to have an incubated atmosphere, and this is very touch and go. It is one has to be very, very considerate, and the whole thing needs a lot of help and support by one's own mind and consciousness, and also those around them, the atmosphere around them, the dwelling place, everything matters a
Yeah,
lot.
yeah. And that's why we need the Vanapasashram, you know, because we need this last 20 years of intense absorption. That's what Vanapasa is all about, you know. Yeah, I feel a little unhappy that I was not able to touch upon things, but I hope people will feel inspired to get the book, and then you can get it all. Hmm?
Prabhu, thank you for coming. And you said something nice. You said the last 20 years, right? I would say next 20 years. I don't know which are the last 20 years.
Yeah, very good, good, good. Thank you. Yes, yes.
Okay, I'm going to
Yes.
give you a new subtitle for this book, Grihastha Ashram and Ashram. Grihastha life as an
This,
ashram.
this is the matchmaking. That's the matchmaking, and that one is the Grihastha life as an ashram.
So Grihastha life in ashram, the subtitle actually is meant for everybody who's a Grihastha. Please take the book. The subtitle is what we are doing wrong. Because all of us are not perfect
And
Grihasthas.
at the same time, it's actually the preparation for Vanapasta. So often I'm saying in the Vanapasta book, please read that book and tighten up your family life. You know, shave up regularly, go to Mangaladi, all these things should actually be part of Grihastha. And if it hasn't been part, then now yes, then now let's get more pucker and solid again. You know, it's a preparation for Vanapasa.
Okay, this book actually really changed my life. Vanaprastha Ashram. Okay. So earlier I didn't think of Vanaprastha, either an ashram, nothing. But this book is a life changer. I read only half the book. Half the book and wow. So the rest of, so this one, please buy it irrespective of your age. Whether you are heading towards Vanaprastha, Prabhu has only 30 some pages on it. And the Grihastha is a must. Please, it seems to be married. Where are you? Okay. So just one more piece of a tip. Vanaprastha Ashram, please take. Make it go through Vanaprastha, you already? Okay.
Okay, thank you very much for coming. So please come back tomorrow evening, 7 to 9, about the Falls-Eager.
I want to tell you something about tomorrow's program.
They're all going. Srila Prabhupada ki, Swami Vivekananda ki, Guru Premanandi.